Welcome to another episode of V for Veganism. We are here today with Cynthia King, owner, operator, founder of Cynthia King Dance Studio here in Brooklyn, and also a vegan activist. Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for coming and visiting.
Yes. So before we get into your beautiful dance studio and these beautiful dancers and everything that you do for them, I have to ask everyone the same question. How did you discover veganism? How, when, why? What is your vegan story?
Well, when I was very young, 10 years old, a lot of years ago, I made the connection somehow, I'm not sure how or why, but I made the connection between our dog and the meat, what was on the plate in front of me. And it just, changed the way I thought about it. I also have a sketchy memory of seeing some kind of graphic footage. Now this was before PETA, many years before PETA, so I'm not sure who would have given me a pamphlet or something with a graphic image, but those pieces came together as a youngster, and I became vegetarian. It was not difficult at the time because I was a little bit of a latchkey kid and I was on my own anyway, and it didn't really matter much, like family meals weren't really a big thing, so I was able to do it pretty easily, and I was quiet about it for a long time. It wasn't cool, So, and then eventually later, I put the rest of the pieces together from vegetarianism to veganism, learning more about, all the other parts. They came in pieces, and leather was sooner, and then, it just all fell into place as I learned about the horrific conditions that animals are, objected to by people.
Yeah. So there was no one in your family, maybe, that adult that kind of influenced you?
No, in fact, I'm the first one of many, many, many in my family. My family is now a very wide gathering of vegans and activists as well, even have a sanctuary on the West Coast. So I was the first one, and like I said, I was kind of quiet about it. I was teased about it a little bit. So it wasn't cool to be, super sensitive and caring as a kid in New York, But even when I've been married for a lot of years, and my husband was a carnivore, and all I did was say, you use those pots and pans, and I'll use these. Like, we just didn't, I didn't really talk about it as much as I got to later when I became more of an activist. And he's now a hardcore vegan, and so is everybody in my family. So yeah, it's great because I don't know what it would be like otherwise.
Right.
So, and he's vegan for the animals too. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did your kids have any moment where they might have rebelled at all? That's what I worry about.
No.
Is teenage years and
No,
rebelling.
absolutely not. And first of all, my kids are both. One is more activist than the other, but they know why we don't eat animals.
Right.
And it's not a mystery.
Right.
And they have never, that would be a very odd thing for me. They can rebel in all kinds of other ways, I could imagine. But they don't really, they're very committed to not being, participating in cruelty. They know why we do it.
Yeah.
So there's who would they be rebelling against?
Right.
I can't really figure that one out,
Yeah.
I don't know what that would even be like. So no, there's not been any moment, I don't think they've had any moment of regret. In fact, they're grown and they have girlfriends who are vegan and, become vegan. And even the girlfriends' families are now reaching out and trying to become plant-based as well. So it's exponential,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and then, you have that reach with family and friends, but here at the dance studio, you also have a humongous reach to really impressionable kids. But how did you get into dance in the first place? And then also, deciding that you were gonna have your own studio?
Well, I was very fortunate and I danced as a kid. Mostly just because the kids around me did. I didn't have a particular passion for it to start with. I loved it, but I didn't run towards it. I was just, tagging along with other kids. I was a little bit of a late bloomer in almost everything I've ever done. So, as I became a teenager, I got more involved, and I went to the conservatory and I became a dancer. And, eventually opening the school, my reach to the kids and the messages that the way that we bring veganism into the dance studio is there's a few different ways. One is that there's nothing allowed in the studio that's not vegan. So it's an instant lesson in what does that mean, you know? So their snacks, their food, any food in any of our events is always plant-based, it's all vegan food. And the shoes are vegan, and in all the costumes there's no feathers. And I you know, in literature around the building, in books, and posters all around the school, I'm constantly enforcing, you know, reinforcing and giving these lessons to the kids. It's really interesting that many of them have never thought about it, and many people have never thought about it. And I wish I was more influential. I don't always see the result of cumulative influence. I'm hoping that I'm at least the beginning seed. Yeah. Children will often come and tell me when they have a snack that's, you know, what they ate that was not an animal. I am unapologetic about being a vegan studio and about being vegan.
I see that everywhere.
Yeah. And I'm unapologetic about, you know, the no fur sign on the door and about being vegan myself. And I often talk with children in a way that they might not be expecting. When they tell me that they eat chicken, I will almost always say, "You mean you eat a dead bird?" Like, I have to rephrase that and say it in language that I hope is a little more clear to them what they're actually eating. And they'll say, "No, I eat chicken," you know. And I'm like, "Oh, you mean you eat a dead bird? I love birds. I thought we dance like birds in the studio. I thought we loved birds." I do love birds, Ms. King, but you just told me that you eat birds. That's, like, you know, very strange. And sometimes I ask them to explain it to me. Like, how did that happen? How did the bird get on your plate? You know, like, you didn't kill the bird, did you? You know? You know? And they'll have to say no, and maybe they'll start to think about what happened. Somebody killed the bird? Like, how did they do that? What happened? That's so sad. And when I'm sad, I mean, I'm like the grandma around here and the mom, you know, like, that's so sad, you know? And you know, when you frame it as a sad story for kids, they start to feel sad, and that's what I want them to feel, you know? Yeah. And then when we do when I do choreography that puts them in cages, in battery cages, crammed together, it's always like, it's fun at first. They seem like they're having fun, and it's like, I want to be in the cage, you know? And then, you know, they'll learn more about what that's like. Imagine if you could never leave that cage. You never could hug your mom. You never could play, you could never dance. And if you had wings, you couldn't even spread them out. And, you know, so I like to tell the story like a children's story, you know? And I've been doing this for many years, and people always ask me if I get pushback from the parents.
That was, yeah.
And you know, I gotta say, I don't. I mean, they might at home hear like, "Well, Miss King's crazy," you know? I don't know. But I know that we have a very special bond, and that whatever message they get from me, it might linger, you know, and grow into something else. I know the kids I'm in touch with that are grown and gone, there are vegans. I know there are vegans that have come through. So I can't tell exactly when and how it happened, yeah. But I definitely tell those stories, you know, and easily and happily, because I'll do it with anybody. You know, that explain to me how this is okay. Right. You know, and then I'll share with them things that I know are very upsetting. You know that they cut off the tails of those little baby pigs when they're babies, and you can hear them cry. You know, I have to tell it like a children's story, and they hear it. You could see that. You know, yes, I've made kids cry. You know, I don't intend to make them cry, but it's a sad story. Yeah, it's a very sad story. Yeah. And if I can get the kids to know how sad it is, they can go home and remember when they sit at the table. And there's nothing about it. Like I said, I'll talk to any parent. You know, I mean, I was explaining to a parent in the lobby the other day about the dairy industry. I had a parent who kept asking me, "But what about, you know, all the, like, but what about soy, and but I can't have this, and I can't have that," and like all the things that make it difficult in their mind to become vegan. And I had to just go into a rant about the dairy industry, because if you are interested in women's issues that involve the reproductive system, there's nothing more egregious than the rape of a cow and stealing of her baby, you know? And I had to do the graphic story, I had to. And luckily it's my place, it's my stage. I'm not going to get fired. Right? Right. So, I mean, this is the place for it.
Yeah.
This is the place for it. Families and children, and and they're interested in health. Of course, I can talk about the health benefits endlessly. I mean, I'm older than all of these people, and I have 100 times more energy. They can't keep up with me in my class. Stop eating what you're eating and eat a vegetable every once in a while, They see it, they can see it, and it's a good place to show all the parts of veganism, all of the parts. Right here, the costumes, the shoes, the choreography, the food, how to nourish your body when you're a dancer.
Right.
Well, don't put any dead animals in it,
So, you've been vegetarian and essentially vegan for a really long time. So I wouldn't think that you'd necessarily notice a difference between dancing before and dancing now.
Well, I will tell you that when I eat better, when I eat whole foods,
yes,
and when I eat whole foods, plant-based, I feel much better.
Right.
I mean, we know that there's a lot of food that's vegan that's not necessarily great food.
I ate a lot of that yesterday.
Yes, and I love it.
Terrible.
Right, we love it, and it's vegan, it's cruelty-free. But I feel best when I eat, a lot of greens and a lot of whole foods.
Yeah.
And also at my age, I'm in my 60s, I also work out a lot more than, very regularly. As you get older, you have to really, really do it. I mean, you feel it more, because if you don't, you can feel it. Like when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, I didn't feel it as much. So now I have to really eat well,
So
most of the time.
Your son is vegan and he teaches at the studio. Do you have any non-vegan instructors, or?
I do. Yes, yes, but they're certainly not non-vegan when they're in the building.
Right.
I do have also vegan teachers. My other son works here too, he's vegan. There are non-vegans in the building, but it helps to have people be exposed to it constantly. So hopefully I will influence people in every way possible.
Yeah.
Every minute of the day, as much as I can, there's a couple of vegan kids, not that many, So, but I'm fighting, I'm teaching them these things, but we're also fighting against whatever they are taught elsewhere. And I tell that's why I love to talk to the parents too. Doctors used to recommend cigarettes for stress.
Yeah.
We know better now. So when people still tell me that they need protein, I'm like, you're listening to old information. We know this now.
So you do dances that are that have a message, a lot of like vegan dances, but you were also saying that one of the dances that we watched before was about gun violence, or is it more specifically about police brutality?
It's about police brutality.
So, you're primarily dealing with, we're in Brooklyn, we're in kind of the heart of Brooklyn, and your demographic is people of color, and do you find a pushback in that respect of like, well, I have all this other stuff that I'm worrying about, like I'm worried that my kids are gonna be safe, I can't worry about this other thing?
No, I've got that piece in particular, the piece Hands Up that I designed this costume for, we've gotten nothing but support on that piece, and children and men dancing, looking like a playground scene, a father-daughter dance, and 30 seconds in, gunshots ring out and the men get shot. Wow. So the first time we did it, and it's loud, realistic gunshots, so the first time I did it was in the theater, and the lights change at the same time, the lights go red, so the audience was, I assume, mostly everybody got it right away, that it was theatrical. When we do it out in the street, we sometimes change that sound effect depending on where we do it. to a sound of a siren, or we lower it sometimes, or we also tell the people right around that there's a little trigger warning that something's happening. But so we've had to adjust it a little bit depending on where we are, because it is a loud, realistic gunshot sound. You know, the other people freeze on the stage when that happens, so hopefully it becomes very quickly evident that it's part of the drama unfolding. But it's definitely not what people expected. And I did, after the first time we premiered it in the theater, we got a phone call from like somebody's racist uncle, you know, at the studio who just had to express his distaste with the theme. But I just was like, all right, whatever, you know, cool. Yeah. Like, you didn't like it? All right. He said it was inappropriate, which is, I'm not really sure what part of it he thought was inappropriate.
Yeah. Well, and like, you know, like you're saying, where you tell the kids about what's actually going on at the factory farms, like this is happening, you know, how is it inappropriate?
They knew, you know? I mean, it lists the names, the piece of music lists the names of the victims. They knew the stories already. It wasn't like they didn't know, but they didn't know, or they had never experienced expressing yourself through dance, expressing anger and expressing heartbreak and rage, and, you know, their reactions to things. Because a lot of times, you know, like classical ballet, there's a lot of pretend going on. There's a lot of princesses and, you know, we don't do that. We do more realistic themes, including those fantasies. I mean, I'm not against those fantasies, but I'm also very interested in doing realistic current events themed work, you know, things with different kinds of impact. So the children really embraced it, and if you've ever seen them do the piece, they're very impassioned. They care a lot about what's happening.
And you performed it at Black Veg Fest.
Yeah, we've performed it in a lot of places. We performed it in the pouring rain at Black Veg Fest.
It was raining.
And what a tremendous response they got from the audience, because they were such troopers to be out there, you know.
Well, and that sort of kind of makes it a little more dramatic too.
Yeah, it was like rain. It was like
yeah. But so, in terms of the demographic of people that come in, you know, I mean, we hear this all the time that like veganism is for white people, or like it's for like rich white people. Do you?
We don't hear that. Well, we're connected with, you know, Hip Hop is Green, New York City Hip Hop is Green. There's a lot, I mean, people that say that don't know Black vegans.
Right.
So we don't say that. I've never heard, you know, we're in a community of vegans of color. So I've heard jokes, like a stereotypical joke. I've heard it the other day. I heard somebody like joking about it as vegans, or, you know, I mean, in that type of a way, like it's a trendy thing or something, and, you know, whatever. It's not.
So you have created a vegan ballet shoe. What about ballet shoes would make them not vegan, though?
All other ballet shoes but mine, soft ballet slippers, have leather or suede. They have suede on the soles. Okay. So I just replaced that, because many shoes are still they're now canvas on the top. Yeah. But they still had suede on the bottom.
Were they made of, like, previously had the canvas part been some sort of
they still make them leather. They make them all leather, or they make them canvas. But if they're leather, obviously they're all leather. But if they're canvas, they still have suede on the bottom. Okay. Many dance shoes still use suede on the bottom. Yeah. So that's what we had to replace. And we had to replace it because there was no other option. And I started this company 16 years ago. And people were asking me, like, which shoe would you recommend for my kid? And I was like, no shoe. I can't recommend a shoe to anybody. Yeah. So I had to make my own. I didn't really know anything about this business, about anything to do with making anything, you know. Yeah. So it's pretty miraculous that now we're in many countries. We're in the UK, France, Australia, Israel, Switzerland, and all around the country. I mean, we sell them worldwide, and, you know, it's been 16 years going strong. So it's now expanding even more, I think. So.
And the line is called Rebelle?
The new one. This is the new one we call Rebelle, yeah.
Rebelle, I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that it says, I don't know if you can see, it says cruelty-free on the bottom. That's amazing. I used to dance, and I wasn't really ever a fan of ballet, but I loved tap, and I continue, I haven't taken a class in a long time, but I've tried to keep up with tap dancing, and when I was looking for a new tap shoe, I couldn't find...
Oh, there's tap shoes, vegan tap shoes.
There are vegan tap shoes.
Okay. You can try mine out when you're here.
That would be great.
The hardest one is really jazz shoes, because some of them, there are some vegan versions, but some of them don't make children's sizes. So I get emails like 100 times a day for all the different kinds of shoes that people want. So I can't make, I'm not interested in making a vegan jazz shoe because we don't really use it here. Like these are like the required shoe for all my dancers. And I think that you can really do jazz with something else. So, but yeah, there's all kinds of vegan, all my kids wear vegan sneakers and we have vegan tap shoes, and yeah, you don't have to, no animal should suffer for the sake of dance. The drums over there are synthetic head drums too that we use in African class, so nobody has to suffer.
Yeah, no one has to suffer. And
Only the kids have to suffer. You better suffer. What I love about what you do, where you incorporate messages into your pieces, is that art has this ability to influence people in a way that just telling them doesn't. You could tell them till the cows are freed, that that dairy comes from mother cows and they're raped and they take their babies, but when you see it in a piece. And act it out when the kids have to act it out too, yeah.
That, and then of course like music influences us, so when you're dancing and then you've got the dramatic music and it all just comes together, then that can click in people as opposed to just me spouting facts to you.
Can hopefully make people feel a certain way, feel a certain way. That's what we hope.
We always talk about making rational decisions, and using our brains, but really we're emotional creatures and we make so much of our decisions based on our emotions. We are naturally artistic and we want to create and we want to change minds, and and we naturally want to progress. So even in this country right now where we're being held back, it's so unnatural. It's so the opposite of where people and society want to go.
I hope you're right. Well, you talk about veganism in art, in the arts, and how important and influential it can be. But I think if every single person would veganize their own industry, no matter what it is, then we'd be in great shape. Because you can bring the vegan message into whatever industry you're in, whether it's making sure that the refrigerator in your place is free of corpses, or or making sure the message gets out on a label or stamp. I mean, we have stamps that just say we are not ingredients and a little picture of animals. You can stamp every envelope that you mail out, or your checks, or whatever you use, or or wherever you go. You can always figure out a way to get the message out. You can go into a store and ask for something that they don't have, or say, I would never shop here because you sell that. Like you can bring activism anywhere. Anywhere and everywhere. So it doesn't have to be on, I do it on stage and I do it in my school, but I think everybody can do it everywhere they go, And it's important because the more we try to help this cause at all costs, that's how we're going to make some progress. We look at the progress we've made this year with the fur industry. I mean, it's like getting flushed down the toilet.
Well, and I consider what you do here at the studio and with the kids to be activism, but you also are out on the street as an activist. When did you start doing that? How did you discover that?
through a lot of the times through PETA and through social media, when it became more easy to connect with people, it was easier to get out and connect with other activists and be out on the streets. But I love it. I think it's so important to do whatever. I mean, I work hours that prohibit some of my my weekends I'm here and evenings I'm here, but whenever I can get a chance to get out, because it's good for us to feel each other's presence. So I do it for the camaraderie as well as to have my voice heard in public. And I think it's important. I think when people do their first demonstration, they get energized. Yeah. So I always encourage people to go out there, grab a sign, start yelling, start chanting, get with the rest of us, and you'll feel the energy and you'll do it again. It becomes like, oh, I want to do this again. I want to leaflet. I want to scream and yell out in front of Canada Goose. Like I do. I want to be there. Whenever I see the videos, whenever the ones that I can't be at, I want to be there. Yeah. And then you can write letters, you can call your council person. There's so many things that you can do to be an activist. It's just so important. Yeah.
Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for doing this interview. You are incredible, and I love the space, and the kids are amazing, and all the signs everywhere are beautiful. I love that. If you're interested in dance lessons, this would be the place that I would recommend to come to, Cynthia King Dance Studio. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe below. Follow Cynthia King Dance on all social media. Follow V for Veganism on social media, and we will catch you on the next episode.